Welcome back to Elvis Fans Matter.
And they do.
It does.
They do.
Yeah, it does, and they
It
do.
does, and they do, and here we go again.
Here we go again. Well, I'm going to try to pick up where I left off, where I really don't know where I left off. But now this is probably going to be the last little segment now, because we'll, you you beat a good horse to death if you keep on. So, but anyway, as far as the Colonel and Elvis, in the early days, I don't have any doubt that Colonel cared about Elvis. It wasn't just all money. Things did go wrong at different times, and Colonel did have a gambling problem.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. He did, and he was all about making sure Elvis, performed when he was supposed to, and the drug addiction played a big part, and that started a long time back. It got started actually in the 50s. Now they had a thing called no-dose, which was
Kept you awake.
kept you hyped up some.
Probably just like caffeine or something like that in a pill, or
Yeah, probably so. Then when he went in the Army, he was introduced to Benzodrine, which is really gets you wired up, and it gets you so wired up it might be a day or two before you really come down without something helping you. So that's when the sleeping pills come in, and later the pain pills. And there was time when Elvis was on them pretty heavy, and he couldn't, he had to really get help as far as people helping him, and and him getting ready for a show and all. But once he hit that stage, boy, he was right on.
it was dependent. But
he was dependent on it.
people
Yes,
think
he was.
they say, well, he was on drugs, and he didn't just sit around drugs all the time. The times that we would be up in his room with him and all, we would be like having conversations, reading books, and he would be telling us about certain things and all that. It wasn't like he was just just out of it. It wasn't like that. The drugs that he took were prescription, and what's so strange is I'm sure he knew he was taking them, and but to him, he was not an addict. He was not addicted. He felt like he was on medication.
Yeah.
In that.
But anyway, he, like I say, there was times when, he had he had problems with getting awake, getting ready for the show. But somehow or another, he always managed to make it, and, there was a lot of down on Dr. Nick and down on the Colonel. And,
Yeah.
And in some cases, it was justified, but
And down on the guys around him, the Memphis Mafia. Before I forget this, because a lot of times if I don't say it, I'll forget. But I think, and we have talked about this too, it wasn't just because of the colonel and him not being a citizen that Elvis, that I feel like Colonel didn't want Elvis to go abroad or go to Europe or anything like that. I think a lot of it was the drugs, that he didn't want to Elvis to be, because they check, for all that, and I just think he thought that might be a problem, and he didn't want, because I know the Beatles or some other artists got busted out with drugs in different places. Of course, they probably weren't prescription drugs, but they want to blame Dr. Nick and blame. You can't just blame a person for everything. Elvis had other doctors. He had doctors in Vegas, doctors in Palm Springs, and everything else. And they were as much to blame as anybody else. I feel like Dr. Nick cared about Elvis. I mean, he became part of our group, and Dr. Nick's son worked for Elvis, and two, a lot of people are saying about, I can understand why a lot of people weren't mentioned if it was just supposed to be the Colonel and Elvis in the movie, but you take people like Linda Thompson. She played a giant part of Elvis's life. Everything that she had said and the remarks that she said were totally true. She did a lot of things. She a lot of times helped Elvis to be able to do things he did, and you have to give it to Ginger too. Ginger was there. She for the last 9 months, Ginger was, and so I mean, you leave people out if you're not going to just leave it like they say it is going to be. Then you shouldn't put anybody in it except Elvis and Colonel and a few little details. But those people had a part of it too. Yeah. It was not just one person in Elvis's life. Elvis had a lot of people in his life that played huge parts in his life, like all the guys later on, all the young guys, and Sam Thompson and Dick Grove and Dave Hebler. They were all in it too. I don't know if they mentioned Dave in it or not.
I don't know either.
But if you're gonna mention one, mention them all. And I can see why. It's not.
Well, I'd take half the movie though.
Yeah, that'd take a big part of the movie. But the thing about it was, it didn't upset you. I mean, you were portrayed in it in the movie, but it didn't. That part's not what aggravated. It was that the premiere was in Memphis, and we were not invited to the premiere. When other people that were not close to Elvis, a lot of Elvis's family was not invited to the premiere. And I don't know who did the invitations. I've got a pretty good idea, but I just thought that was really tacky. Whether they were liked or not, people that had a part in his life, and especially his family and close friends, and like Linda and Ginger and people like that, and his other family that is in Memphis too. What's an invitation? It's almost like you're not good enough. You're not sophisticated enough. You're not the Hollywood type. You don't need to be there. Well, all those people had as much right as any of the rest of the family to be there, and the people that they asked that were not close to him, they took up family and friend slots to me.
Yeah.
I'm just sounding off, but it just irritates me that because nobody's better than anybody else. When we die, if you're not cremated, the hole's going to be the same size for everybody. So take it.
But Lisa, she was only 9, and
She was 9 years old.
I don't know how much she, remembers about her daddy, And the reason I say that is because, most of the time, Lisa was with her mother, and
Lisa was there in the summer and at Christmas,
yeah,
most of
yeah,
it.
most
That's
of the
most
time.
of the,
And a lot of the other holidays too,
yeah, holidays sometimes.
Summer break, she was there, but I don't, like I say, I know he loved Lisa. I mean,
He
he
did.
loved her to death, and Lisa loved Elvis. He loved their daddy. Priscilla, now, it showed Priscilla where she, said that she could handle, the girlfriends and all that. It was the pills. I have a hard time accepting that myself. I know that it probably was pills, but it was also women. I think it was a combination of both. Why they separated.
I
know
feel
that-
like, and Margaret bothered her a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was back here in Memphis with her during that time, and we would go out and to the movies and stuff like that. And I think that, just my opinion and what I observed, I think that Ann Margaret bothered her a lot, which, I can understand why. I can understand all of it. She was
Yeah.
married to him. I can understand every bit of it, why it would have bothered her.
Well, at that time she wasn't married to him.
No, I mean though later on,
But,
she.
she was supposed to be his, steady girlfriend and all
Mhm.
that. But, I noticed too that, wasn't no mention of Mike Stone or anybody like
No,
that,
Mike Edwards, Mike
Uh,
Stone,
Well, Mike Edwards came along, I think.
later.
Yeah.
Marco.
Yeah. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. She had her faults too. And,
They both had faults.
and things happened like they did, but I I said this all along. It's the only 3 people I know that could have helped Elvis, besides Elvis himself, was Priscilla and Carl and his daddy. And I still stick with that. That's the only ones I think that really could have had any kind of a. Well, Priscilla, she got her little part in there, and I'm sure she might have, in a way, wanted to help Elvis. But, you couldn't help Elvis if he didn't want to be helped. But rehashing old stories like that, I'm just saying that, Elvis got addicted to, prescription drugs, and there was times, that he was, pretty high. Most of the time on stage, he wasn't. But I
No.
imagine there was sometimes, because I wasn't there, a lot of times, like in Vegas and all, and I can't really say what totally occurred except, what Elvis has told me over the years. But there was a love between Colonel and Elvis. I know in the beginning, a lot of respect for each other. Later, it got a little different. 1967, I know, was the year supposedly that Colonel was supposed to have signed a new contract where he got 50% of, and that's what I've always heard. He did. He got 50%.
Did that come about during the time Elvis was
well,
fell and injured his head?
Yeah,
When you-
he had failed and fell in the bathroom really,
Yeah.
and hit his head and had a concussion, and they I know because I stayed in the room with him for about a week. and that's when,
Where did that happen?
out Rocket Place.
Rocket Place, that's what I thought.
That's when I think well, I'm pretty sure it was, the signing of the contract took place because Elvis, not only was he, he was really upset about everything, but I think that's when that took place and all, and I think that the Colonel, he, excuse me, I got a neck. Anyway, but Elvis, he didn't like it, and he did fire the Colonel. I know when that came about, he was, in fact, we talked about that, he fired the Colonel, and supposedly, Colonel told Elvis, look, you're gonna fire me, I want $10 million. And Elvis says, well, let me say this, Colonel, how do you want it? All at one time or installments? As far as Elvis owing Colonel $8 million, I don't no more buy that than a man in the moon. First of all, you don't go back and add this, add that.
$100 for this.
Yeah, and $100 that. That's always part of the promotion. That came, from promotional expenses. So I just don't buy that at all, and that. But like I say, a lot of the movie was just a little too far-fetched to suit me. I think, like I say, that Austin Butler done a good job, and I think that Tom Hanks done a good job. But I don't totally lay all the blame on the Colonel. Don't lay it all on Dr. Nick.
No.
Maybe if got right down to it, maybe it was everything and everybody. I don't know. But Elvis was not depressed all the time. And stomping and raving. He had a lot of issues. Elvis was a human being like anybody else. Things bothered him. I always, like I said, people said that it didn't worry Elvis about the Beatles, but it did worried him because here they are, and teenagers are raving and screaming over them like they did Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just wondering, and his record sales was falling off some. So he worried about that, Tom Jones, he worried about, Tom
and
Jones
he made it a
stuff.
point to meet, because when we met the Beatles was on Perugia Way, and they came to Elvis's house, and we all got to meet him, and he kind of, after he met him, he kind of relaxed about that, because they were in awe of him. They just, they just really were just thrilled to be able to meet Elvis Presley.
Yeah. But anyway,
And he met Tom Jones, and he went. They weren't bosom buddies like it. They were together in Hawaii. I think he was there the same time Elvis at one time.
no, they wouldn't. I think he stayed with
Did he?
Elvis during
But
that time.
over the years, they weren't just.
No.
But I can't remember Elvis being just great buddies with any actor that was, on a regular basis.
Actor or singer
Or a singer or anybody like that. They may have come to a movie or come, seen him at different places, but as far as the people Elvis was around was the people that worked for him. He just didn't hang out with people. And his best friend, he had a lot of best friends, and I don't know, but when I met Billy, it was the early 60s, and because I knew Elvis when Anita was still there, before Priscilla came, before Jerry came, before Richard came, before a lot of them came, and I didn't see the part that, I didn't see the I don't know how to say that, the importance of one person's portrayal in the movie just wasn't, I never saw that. I don't know about you. I don't think you did.
Well,
either.
you know, here's the thing about it. Leeches, hangers-on, hillbillies, whatever they want to call it. We've been called everything. But here's the thing about it. Elvis wanted it that way.
That's exactly right.
And if he hadn't,
Wouldn't have
been there.
That's right.
It's that simple.
And if you knew Elvis, you knew that.
Yep. And so, you know, but at the very end there were things changing, and I may go into that sometime.
A lot
in
of
the near
people were
future.
getting ready to
Not
have to hit the road
yeah.
because
But Elvis was, he spent a lot of money. But Elvis was not broke.
no.
No, I mean, he didn't
And-
have the kind of money that probably the Colonel had, because Elvis liked to spend. I mean, you know, if it's something he wanted, he'd get it.
That was his
But
pleasure.
he did.
That was what he got out of it.
Yeah.
He'd rather give somebody something than to have it himself. Really, I mean, he had everything he wanted, and when he could give somebody something, it thrilled him. Just
But as far as him owing the Colonel, just my opinion, I don't think so. I'd like to see something where it said, you know, in writing. Otherwise, if it wasn't in writing and all that, it wasn't really worth the darn. It's just complete hearsay, you know. And I never heard that. It was never mentioned. And how could he be broke and still, when he passed away, he still had $1.5 million? Well, if he owed the Colonel, if he owed the Colonel money, well, you know, how'd the Colonel get his money? Take it out of the merchandise and all that stuff. So, you know, it give me a break. You know, just so much of it was so out of
proportion, out of
Portion,
I never heard that Jerry was his best friend. Elvis had a lot of best friends.
Well, at different times, different people.
Different people were
best
close.
friends, you know. I mean, it's just that simple, you know.
I think, in my opinion, I think he was Priscilla's maybe her best friend. You know, that's just my opinion. But and still is the way it looks. But you know,
But
maybe
Jerry's a good person.
Jerry's a
and,
good
you know,
person, a good
yeah.
good guy.
And you know, if I had been able to contribute it to the movie and all, I don't know what I might have, you know, not have done it. I don't know. It's hard to say right now because naturally the estate and myself and all, we disagreed on a lot of things and still do, and a lot of stuff's been. But, you know, I can forgive, but I see some people can't.
I think you would have. I think you would have added to it, and I think like
Well,
Patsy
who knows?
Presley, you know.
I think he could have too.
I think she would have added to it because there's nobody alive. I think any of the guys that were here could have added to it. I think a lot of the girlfriends, or one in particular that I know, could have added a lot to it. But the thing about it is Elvis's life was not miserable from the time Priscilla left. Some of his happier times was like, you know, 75, 76, 77. I mean, he went on vacations. We rode motorcycles, and that's another thing. Had he been high as a kite all the time, he couldn't have ridden a motorcycle without running up somebody's rear end or, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
stuff
true.
like that. It's just in degrees that you have to realize how people were. He took drugs, but he wasn't constantly strung out, as they want to say.
Well, let me just say that, we could go on for hours and hours and pick this movie to death, but I think we've done.
Picked it enough.
I think we've picked it enough, for now, and
It's just that we lived it, and everything's different the way we see it than the way they just put it out there. And if you don't know and know certain things, I mean, it irritates you, or to think that's how they will think, or the majority of people that see it that were not back from the old days, because a lot of the fans that were there were allowed to be around Elvis, and they knew his way too. Like a lot of people at the gate that are still friends with us today, they knew how he was, and they knew different things. And I'm sure they're probably some of the ones that are thinking, this is not the way we remembered it. But the new generation and history,
yeah.
This is what it'll go down as.
For all the new Elvis fans coming along, younger generation and all, if you have a dream becoming whatever, go after it.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. Because
anything's possible.
Anything is possible, and we welcome all. But don't buy in that if you become successful, that everything is downhill from there. Because it's not.
No.
You'll love what you do, and you go about what you do, and enjoy your life, and don't take it that Elvis Presley was completely miserable or unhappy all the time, and the same way with his mom and daddy. And just remember, that there's a lot of happiness. There was a lot of happiness in Elvis's life, and
great fun times
that he enjoyed with his family, friends, and his fans. And just remember that this is just all our opinion. And we're just letting off what we think about this movie. And now that we've got that out of the way, I just want to say that we'll have other videos, and hope this don't offend anybody to the point where they
feel bad toward us.
Hatred towards us, but
everybody feels the way they feel, and that's and everybody has a right to feel like they want to.
Okay.
If they want to go see the movie 100 times,
go.
If you like it and you love it, and and it touches you, go. It just didn't do that for us.
I just think that it should have been more straightforward, and not around the world just to get all the money that it can draw. Because anything done with Elvis is all his fans and all that gonna be there.
Yes, they always they've always been there for him.
We, and I include myself and all, we still can't get enough, and we were there.
Yeah.
So I can imagine about the fans and all, can't get enough of things about Elvis, different things, and something new comes up, pops up.
There's always a story. There's always something else.
Yeah. And hear somebody else's stories, like one of the fans, that's interesting because, he touched so many lives.
Yes.
But with that, I've said just about all I could say.
I don't think any one person has it all. It's got to be a effort with everybody.
But with that, let's just leave it with a happy
That's right.
note, and just remember, Elvis fans matter.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching.